So for years, we've heard that we need to teach our children street smarts. Like they needed to be careful when they went to the parks or to the movies or to the mall, and they needed to pick their friends and choose them very wisely. And all of that's still true, by the way. But we get to add something new into that equation. And that's what we call computer smarts, because our children require guidance from us. We need to help them make appropriate choices online. Today's show, we're going to dive into the challenges that exist online. We're going to create that awareness around it. We're going to talk a lot about that. But we're also going to talk about a game-changing solution that can help children make appropriate choices. And in that process, even come out feeling like they're creating a sense of maturity and more self-esteem and all the things that we would wish for our children. So this is going to be an amazing show that you don't want to miss. Hi, my name is Cheryl Bassett, and I am the founder of Unstoppable Connections, and I am an international bestseller and creator of the Unstoppable Family Toolkit. I am also your host for the show, Kitchen Table Conversations, as part of the Edge Network. I got the opportunity to create 4 gifts, and families do tap into those 4 gifts, and they create an unshakable, unbreakable connection that allows them to build a foundation that's built on trust and honoring one another. If you really want to discover more about what those 4 gifts are, you can go to my website, which is unstoppableconnections.com. And right on the front page, in fact, you can download a free ebook that talks about those 4 gifts. Also, if you want to be on the show or you have an idea that you would like to see on the show, you can go to kitchentableconversations.com and connect with us there. Okay, so let's talk about the show a little bit, because I really want to set the intention. And I do this for every show because I just feel like it's really important. The show features everything from the fun stuff to the tough stuff and everything in between. Today's topic is a little bit of that tough stuff, right? So we're going to be really digging in. But all of it's designed to ignite a conversation, to strengthen your family, and to create a positive ripple out in the world. We also do tap into that one of the gifts, which is the 4th gift, which is the gift of love. And we do that because it allows us to choose to celebrate ourselves and others. And it's with that intention that we do every show. We come with an open heart and an open mind, and we celebrate the person who's given their time today to come and share their expertise as well as their passion with us. So with that, I'm going to read just a little bit about Charlene Doak-Gebauer, is who we get to celebrate today, with her and her message around how it is we're going to keep our children safe online. Charlene has researched and written a progressive theory of digital supervision. You're going to find out what that's about. She travels the globe to places such as the US, which is where I am, Canada, Iceland, Europe, and India to share her expertise. She leads audiences towards proactive digital child and family protection. She is a qualified secondary educator, computer specialist, and network administrator in education. She is also the author and a playwright, and I love that, and a registered holistic nutritionist. Charlene is referred to as an expert in online child protection, and she has also written a book, and hopefully you can all hold this up so you can see it. The Internet, Are Children in Charge? And yes, they are, unless you step in and take charge. And that's what we're here to talk to Charlene about today. So help me bring Charlene into this conversation. Hi, Charlene.
Hi, Cheryl. How's it going?
It's going great. So how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And it's really, it is one of those tough topics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you and I were talking, and I know we're going to really dig into that a little bit, about just the awareness that needs to really be out there around this topic, because otherwise we're just sort of sticking our head in the sand. And but I also know, and obviously we all sort of come to our passions through our life experiences. And I know that yours is part of that as well, and holds true. So why don't we start with just like a little bit about your personal story and sort of how you got to talking about this important topic?
Well, I have a twin sister, and she had a daughter that was 4 years old that was used for internet child exploitation. They were neighbors, And the whole thing was very devastating for our family. She lived her life to the beat of her own drum. I taught many students that had been abused that way, and followed the textbook case, and a number of very challenging things, but at the age of 22 ended up being killed by a drunk driver. And as a network administrator, I've come across internet child exploitation in re-imaging machines, and you don't know that garbage until you see it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what my relative had been through, and after her death, I sat down at the computer and said, how on earth can I help my family? How can I help them get through this? And I decided to start my charity, Internet Sense First, and started researching the crime and was horrified at the statistics, which have increased greatly since then, and ended up writing my book and speaking about internet child safety.
Right. And now you travel, I know, all over the world. And you're from Canada.
Yes.
So
yes,
the U.S. is actually traveling for you.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So, I think some of the best things come from obviously the life experiences that we have, and we take them and we turn them into something that, is a solution. Mm-hmm. And I know that we're going to talk about sort of 3 different parts of this process today. But I guess maybe we're going to start right there. Maybe we're going to go ahead and start with the awareness piece, because really that is, your story is one story of how many?
A few.
A few, right? So what are, I will tell you one of the stats that jumped out at me, but I know you know a lot more of these, but the number of child sexual abuse files by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2004 was 450,000 files, which is already off the chart to me. But in 2015, and I don't know, I didn't see the stat for, you might know the more current stat, but for 2015, that was it 25 million?
Which was an increase of 5,000%.
Yeah.
And now Thorne in the United States have continuously researched, and they said that's now at 10,000% in increase.
Oh, okay.
And I will say that the children are contributing to those statistics. Our children now are the most independent generation in the history of the world. They are online, they're on screens constantly, they have their smartphones, which is a walking computer, mm-hmm. and they're contributing to the predation statistics, because in Kansas City, the SANE department, which is the sexual exploitation unit, their trauma unit has researched, and over 50% of the predators in their unit are between the ages of 11 and 15. And that is because of too much pornography online, exposure. Mm-hmm. And I tell everyone, we're all doing a great job in parenting, but we need to catch up to the digital age.
Yeah.
And that was where I decided I would start creating something that might help children. Let's face it, I talk to people all over the world. Politicians are great in saying, have you talked to Facebook and Instagram and the social media platforms? And I look at them and say, do you realize there are at least 25 million people on those platforms at any minute of any day, round the clock?
Yeah.
Facebook, they cannot monitor that. The
Right.
government cannot monitor it. The police cannot monitor it. So then I decided, who is going to protect our children? And I started realizing it has to be us. It has to be the parents. Mm-hmm. When they say, what about getting the Facebook and so on board with this? I tell everyone, we go out, people are going to the schools. The police are talking in the schools, and they're giving the children, you can't do this. You have to make better choices online. I don't know of any 8-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old that even makes a decision about what to have for dinner.
Right.
They do not have, but
Yeah.
they don't have the life skills, the social skills. When I speak in schools, I'll ask them, how many of you have seen inappropriate pictures? They know I'm talking about pornography.
Right.
Every hand will go up. And I'll say, do you know that you're supposed to be 18 to see that material? Have you talked to your parents or a trusted adult about it? Because mm-hmm. that exposure will cause more depression and anxiety for children than parents even know.
Right.
None of them put their hand up. And it's an exposure. that is causing child-on-child sexual assault. There are children as young as 6, 7 sexually assaulting other children because they're seeing pornography online. There are children 6 and 7 years old addicted to pornography.
I saw that, the addiction piece, and I went, wow. Like,
and how many parents would know? So when I developed digital supervision, I wanted it user-friendly, because too often when I'm speaking to adults, I'm a computer specialist. When I'm speaking to adults, I'm very careful not to talk over the heads. And then people will say, well, millennials will know better. And I'm sorry, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because people know how to do social media, they know how to do the internet and all those platforms and chatting. They do not know about the statistics involved here. And
Right.
this is where awareness is very important for parents, grandparents, and professionals to be aware of, because it is in epidemic proportions. We need to catch up. I'm not telling parents they're not doing a good job.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes, it's so hard to be a parent.
Yeah.
But we need to catch up to the digital age.
You made me think of a couple of things. One is, first of all, my kids are 28 and 30. And I didn't have to, like, this wasn't an issue, right? When they were, it was kind of just starting, because I think I remember a little bit of MySpace going on, and whatever. Yeah. And of course, from then to now, like, so I know parents, what they're dealing with today is just so much more, right? And so we do need to not beat ourselves up, but at the same time, we need to be in that awareness, which I think is what you're talking about. But the other piece I just want to touch on really quickly is, you talked about kids not talking to their parents about this. And one of the things that I'm just, so huge on, obviously with my kitchen table conversations piece, is because those are conversations that kids should feel like they could share with their parents. And that's where the parenting comes in, to have that connection, so that they are sharing those things, and that, kids don't feel embarrassed to share it, or afraid that if they share it, they're going to, that's that authentic connection that I think needs to really start to happen. And that's where I think it could, begin, is at the kitchen table in terms of sharing those things. So, but to keep on to what your point, because the awareness piece is where, I think it's really easy to, still to just say, well, my kid wouldn't do that.
Do you know what my response is to people? I lied to my parents. Did you?
No. Yes.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And I've been in many parent-teacher interviews where parents will say, my children don't lie to me. And I just look at them and I would say, I'm sorry, I lied to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people need to understand. And the conversation needs to be open, but not turning your child into a person that is at fault. Mm-hmm. Because our children are victims of the internet.
Right.
And that's where people have to start getting the mindset. Do not villainize your children. And when you're talking to them about pornography, have you seen inappropriate pictures? I just want to know. I know they're out there. Where would you find them? Things like that. Who do you chat with online? I had a conversation with a young man who was 10, and I said, very casually, very calmly, you don't say, who do you talk to online? You talk to them and you say, oh, what games do you play online? And they'll say, oh, maybe Ark, a game like that. Mm-hmm. Say, who do you play with online? Oh, so-and-so and so-and-so. And I knew the names of the the children he was talking about. And then I very casually said, any grown-ups play with you online? Oh, yeah, there's one really nice guy. And of course, the smoke started coming out of my ears. I was like, I'm sure he's nice. Yeah. Conversation led up to the fact that I could tell that this man was not a good person. One thing with digital supervision I tell parents is play online with your children. Sit beside them. Mm-hmm. Learn how they're communicating. Because the greatest asset to a predator is online gaming. Mm-hmm. And their prey is online. They are so online that they want to be accepted as a sexual orientation. They want to be part of the LGBTQ community. And I tell everyone, this is where we fight tooth and nail.
Mhm.
There's nothing right about this. It's against the law in most countries, pedophilia.
Mhm.
So they have found each other online and decided that they're normal
Mhm.
because they have a sense of family online.
Mhm.
And this is where parents need to be very aware of all the statistics, what is going on. We need to open up and say, it's time.
Mhm.
Let's figure this out. Our children will thank us when they get older.
Right. Right.
And the other thing that I'm talking to people about are nudes. Kids, if you have children or grandchildren, ask them about nudes. What are nudes?
What are news?
Nudes, Nudes.
Nudes. Oh, I thought you were saying news. Okay,
Nudes.
nudes. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are nudes? Because we just had an international summit to end internet child exploitation, and I challenged everyone, ask your children about nudes. I had people calling me and saying, oh, I could not believe they knew all about them. And
Yeah.
their nudes are taking taking pictures of themselves naked, I should say, and sending them. It's a very dangerous thing to get involved in.
Right. And I think that that's where the parenting comes back to, right? Because if you have a child and you're instilling in them that self-esteem and, the things that they need, because a lot of times, and not all the time, but a lot of times that happens because they're seeking approval or they're seeking, somebody to say that they look. But if they had that confidence out of the gate, right? We need to give that to them. As well, so that maybe they make a better choice. Obviously, we still have to monitor it, but I'm just saying, I think that a lot of that starts in is the beginning of that self-esteem starting to be developed as well.
The kitchen table. But we
Mhm.
can't forget the amount of peer pressure they have
Yeah.
to send a nude. And when I'm speaking in a school, parents will say, oh, my kids would never do that. But the kids see it as a funny. They see
Mhm.
it as a joke. It isn't funny.
It's not
Because
fun.
there are so many suicides out there, and a lot of it is coming from sending a nude. And the more parents are aware of that, when I go into the school, the kids think it's a joke.
Mhm.
They'll take pictures of their genitalia and email them.
Yeah.
And if their geolocator is on, people know where they live.
Yeah. And
And
so that I think is what you were talking about when you and I were briefly going back and forth, is that we don't realize that we talk about protecting our kids online, but really it protects the whole family because
absolutely.
because at that moment, right, if a child is doing that, they're giving away the location
Yes.
of the home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the laws are the same in Canada, the United States, UK, France, globally, particularly in first world countries, that if your child has a cell phone and they take a nude of themselves until they're 18, they cannot have a contract for that cell phone. So you as a parent are in possession of child pornography, whether it is your child or not. And I'll give you an example. Let's say a child sends a nude to a friend down the street. The friend's father finds the email. They look at the picture. They call the police. The police come knocking at your door and they'll say, we're wondering where you got this picture, and your child will be in another room. It is the same on TV as it is in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll say, wow, I don't know where that picture came from. And they interview your child, who may be a behavioral child. Behavioral children do not want to be in trouble. And they say, my dad took that picture. Is that a conversation you want to have?
That is not a conversation. Well, I'm thinking, though, if you told your son or daughter that you wouldn't be able to get a cell phone of your own until you're 18.
That would not work.
Yeah, so they're going to be like, okay. So, I mean, I'm just thinking that maybe that's part of you do that, then you're not going to have a cell phone until you're an adult, right?
Yeah.
But that's a tough thing, too, because I know we use cell phones for good things.
There is a lot of good on the internet. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the internet right now, and we're able to broadcast globally a very important message. There's some good things about the internet.
Right. It's just energy. It's what we do with it, right?
Yes, that's right.
Good or use it for bad, but right. Exactly.
And one thing about digital supervision is I tell parents, do you look at the cell phone of the child? Are you checking all of the pictures, the icons? Because some of these kids have their own ring where they have an icon on their cell phone that looks like a calculator or a very benign picture. If you click on all of the icons, are you checking the images on the cell phone? And please don't tell me it's an invasion of their privacy.
Yeah.
because this is not a diary. This is something we are paying for
Well,
our children.
You just said it. We own the phone.
Exactly.
So
And
how
when
can invasion of privacy? It's your phone.
well, this is it. And when I'm speaking in schools, the teachers thank me afterwards, and they will kind of chuckle. I'll ask the kids, how many of you own a cell phone? And they'll all put their hands up. And I'll say, no, you don't. Your parents do.
Yeah. Nice.
And you need to understand anything you do on your phone, your parents are responsible for.
Yeah. So that's a great conversation piece right there. Like,
that's right.
Piece, right? Because if you as a family are in sync with each other and you want to be a team, like, you know, which is what I'm really a huge proponent of, how do we all contribute to this team? You know, you don't want to put your parents in a bad situation either.
Well, you don't want them in trouble with the law.
With law.
Which could happen.
But I'm sure a kid doesn't sit and think about that. But that's a great conversation to have, to bring that awareness on both sides of that equation.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if you have a cell phone for a child, certainly when you first give a child a cell phone, you should have a contract with them on the usage of the cell phone and your expectations. They will contribute to the contract, but then the rules are laid.
Right. Right. Yes. Okay, so I want to recap a little bit here, because we're obviously really stepping into the awareness piece, but I feel like we're also getting into some of the method piece.
Yes, that's part of the method.
That's part of the method. But I know that there's something else that you talk about, as far as there is something out there right now that some parents do use, which is a computer filter, but it doesn't do it all.
No, as part of digital supervision, you should have a computer filter. And a lot of people don't know what that is. It is a piece of hardware that goes between your router and the computer. And it will filter information from the internet. Like, you can block porn sites. But after a while, with certain filters, children get around the filter, which is why digital supervision is so important. And when you have a filter, when a child is on a gaming system, they are outside the filter. They're on the internet, but they are outside the filter.
Right.
So where are you going to monitor? The digital supervision has to come into play. And we need humanity.
So they work together, but you can't rely just on this filter thing.
Oh, no. It gives people a false sense of security. And people keep emailing me where police will say, keep your kids off these websites. Predators are there. And I tell everyone, predators are everywhere. In every environment. You can look at different environments, see what you can do, but digital supervision must be there. You cannot leave them on a screen and not supervise in some way. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So what else is part of that method? I love what we were just talking about, obviously, with the sort of that conversation that can happen between parent and child, and realizing the responsibility it is to have a cell phone and how it can impact the whole family in a negative way, so that if they really want to be a part of the team, you know, they get to understand that. What else could a parent be doing from a method standpoint?
A lot of people tell me that their children are online all night. And what do I do about it? I tell them, first of all, turn the router off.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure there are no unsecured routers in your neighborhood. And you can usually tell who the neighbor is that has an unsecured router. First of all, you can tell them that predators will drive around neighborhoods to look for unsecured routers to download kiddie porn, which would be off your router. So secure it, for one. And the other thing I tell parents is to put the router in the parental bedroom. If you're worried about electronics, you don't need to worry, because you're going to have it off at night. But there are two reasons you do that. Number one, you can turn it off. Your child is not going to tiptoe in to turn it back on the way they would if it was in your living room.
Yes. Okay.
And second of all, you are emphasizing to your children who is in charge of the internet, who is in charge of these digital devices. Everyone has it. It's too commonplace now. And yes, put your computer in a common place in the house, but are you looking at what your children are doing? If you walk in and they turn the computer off right away,
their behavior is pretty easy to pick up on.
Very suspicious, right? So you turn the monitor off, and just simple things like that. In my book, I talk about being alert to grooming methods, changes in a child's behavior, the secrecy. They could all be forms of grooming, which is a lot to say in the 2 minutes we have left, or the 5 minutes. But all of those things are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage people to buy the book, learn more, because
Yeah, the book is
again,
great. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I learned so much, and I didn't even read it from cover to cover. But what I did read, and which was quite a bit, but it's really good. It's good information. It's and I want to go back because I want to make sure like that we kind of put these into like some how-tos, and you hit them, and I'm just going to recap them a little bit. But obviously you talked about checking the icons on their phone.
yes,
Because sometimes they look like something other than they are.
mm-hmm.
You talked about moving the router into a right next to your bed, so they're not going to be able to sneak in, and probably turn it back on, and you can turn it off at night.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of parents, again, the parents have to really see, like, this is your house, this is your home, this is your, the children are not in charge, as your book says.
Right.
You need to be in charge. And then, you said ask to participate, maybe like join in with them on some of their things that they're doing online. Look
Absolutely.
for the suspicious behavior of, like, when you walk in a room, they immediately shut the computer screen down to, or click it over to something else. And that, we all know our children, and we know when they're sneaking. And obviously, and I might have said this already, but obviously keeping that computer even in a common place where it's not in their bedroom in a corner somewhere where, you have to knock on the door. So by the time you come in, they've already been able to act like they're totally doing something else,
Right.
Obviously. So yes, we were all kids, so we all remember.
And you review everything on every digital device.
Yeah.
And the other thing I caution parents as well, if you take away a cell phone, you're going to see your child go absolutely ballistic. And if they aren't, they may have a burner phone, which can tap onto any Wi-Fi anywhere. So there's just so much to talk about with this. And the biggest thing I will say, though, there is hope. We can do this.
Mm-hmm.
We as parents can do this. And do not throw your arms up in despair and say, are you kidding me? You can do it. And digital supervision is user-friendly enough. You can program a router to turn off at a certain time. User-friendly is turn it off.
Yeah.
I've tried to make it so easy for parents. We just need to do it.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it goes back to, we've got to have those conversations with our kids too.
Absolutely.
And that connection. And then as parents, we need to be guiding this and aware. So again, the first thing we talked about was really being in that awareness. The second thing we talked about were some of the methods, obviously, that you can do. And there's so much more, as you talked about, like, and in your book, there's going to be a whole lot more. And then the last one is hope, because I think sometimes it can feel like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, I don't even know where to start. So I don't. And you know what? You just start, because your kids are important, your family's important, and you take that journey together and take those first steps. So, but I think a great way to take those first steps is obviously by getting your book. And I'm going to put up right now on screen here if people want to get in touch. And your book is on your
it's on my website. It's accessible in Amazon, Chapters, Kohl's, Indigo, 40,000 distribution channels worldwide. Okay.
So that is C-Doak-Gebauer, and Doak is C-Doak, D-O-A-K -Gebauer, Gebauer.com, because sometimes we have people that don't see the video but are watching
right.
or hearing the podcast on this. So I just want to make sure that everybody can get there and get a copy of your book. What we do to end every show, Charlene, is well, first of all, before we do that, is there anything else that you want them to know specifically before? And then we're going to just do a drop of thought, which could be sort of the same thing, just a drop of thought, your pearl of wisdom, your parting thought, if you will, for our audience today.
First of all, let's be positive. We can do this. And second of all, I've had parents tell me they started practicing digital supervision. It is one step at a time. You don't do it overnight. You will become comfortable with the different steps. But moving the router was huge for them. And they said once they did that and the children knew who was in charge, they and the children were far more relaxed, because a lot of the things these children are seeing cause a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And once parents get involved and give the guidance and the protection that parents feel good about doing, and knowing how to, we have hope. We will
Yeah.
do this. We will do this.
We have hope, and I applaud all the parents out there who deal with this, because this was not something that I did. I got grandkids coming though, so guess what?
That's right.
And the cycle continues, right? So anyway, thank you so much for being here. I just want to end the show with the way that I end every show, and I love, because we're talking about the hope and setting that, because we want to step into the energy of the solution around this. But my parting thought always, and my drop of thought, is to remember that in a world where we can be anything, be kind.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.